me get this one going. Got the computer down here. 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to Lighten Up, It's Only Light. I'm Bero, owner of Sacred Crystals, and this is...
Hello, everyone. I'm going to bring something different to you today, only because I'm inspired to do so. I thought about it, and so I'm going to do this. My real name is Christina Welsh. I am cutting my cord today, at least in this realm, of Christina Welsh. How are you?
Hey, hello, Miss Kozik. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
So where does the name Kozik come from?
I'm honoring my heritage right now. My real name is Kozik. It's my maiden name, and my father provided that to me, who sired me. So it's in honor of my family that I reclaim the Kozik name.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Thank
My
you.
name Bero is my real last name, and it's it actually comes from my adopted father. So, but he is the dad who's always been there for me in my life. So, I'm very happy to have his name, and I love it. And it goes very well with Vero, which is short for Veronica. So,
Bero, isn't that cute? Cute. Well,
awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. That's a blessing.
Yeah. So I love how you said sired too, because you're pretty much a stud.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So today we are going to talk a little bit about boundaries, because boundaries are healthy and important. And sometimes growing up we are taught things, and we're actually taught, I think, to lower our boundaries, and it's
compromise.
To compromise, yeah. And it's usually by people who benefit by us lowering our standards because it benefits them. So you don't take care of yourself because you're supposed to take care of me, type of thing.
So interesting.
And yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries, but we're going to start as usual with a little reading for us. So Christina is going to take it away.
Yeah.
With a little reading. Miss Kozak, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so today I dipped my toe into, or re-dipped my toe into the Mystical Healing Reading Cards by Ina Segal, and I like them. I'm feeling them. Whoops, let me move. I don't know why I'm showing that one. Here, they're cute. And illustration by, you're so good at doing all of the bits and sharing all the details, so I want to take notes. Illustrated by Jake Baddeley. I think that's how it's pronounced.
And I think it's really important always when you're dealing with tarot and oracle decks to recognize who illustrated them, because you get so much from the art. Like, the art is like a huge part of the deck. Like, there's the meaning and the art. I'm personally working on it's coming along, a deck myself. So
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how that manifests itself. But yeah, so Miss Ina Segal doing the book of this deck, and Mr. Jeremy. What was it, Jeremy?
Oh, it is. Oops.
Where'd he go? Oh, Jake Baddeley. Jake Baddeley doing this beautiful art.
It's pretty incredible. It has this Renaissance, vibe, or, back in the olden days where your philosophers, Socrates, and people doing these little sketches of all these really interesting things that they were seeing in the sky.
Just so cool. So cool.
Well, blessings to this beautiful, I'm going to call it Turtle Island. Today, I guess we claimed independence from something. And I'm going to honor that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to honor that hard, but I also am going to honor the fact that it was assisted by and made possible by the native peoples of this beautiful, beautiful land. So thank you. I'm going to honor you at the same time. Hey, future ancestors. Feel good about it. It notes to awaken your vulnerability, and it is card number 3. Card number 3. Awaken your vulnerability. Did you want to have a peeky?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there is so much going on here. Wow.
There's a lot, right?
Yeah. The glare off of it.
So,
Wow.
there's a lot of role playing going on here.
It's also interesting with our topic of boundaries as well.
I know. You know, there's a winged person. It's like a messiah that I see here. There's cupids floating about. There's these jester looking like people, or people in masquerade with like masks on. Kind of like those funny beaked masks where they cover your eyes and give you a little nose too, but it's a Renaissance, you know, like you take it off and you put it back on, you know, one of those ball, crazy fair type things. It's very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to dive into what the author notes about this beautiful card. And, oh, I just noticed that it's sawed in half. The being is sawed in half.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's putting a different perspective on my look at this. So I've never had this card, and like I said, I'm kind of re-dipping my toe into the well of this beautiful deck and the information that it has to offer. But what is missing from this card is the groin area, and then the legs and feet are captured in a frame, like they're framed in a frame. The being is also holding a rose in its hand and is of angelic nature. So with the groin being sawed away and the hips being removed, what I kind of sense about that and the letter V and vulnerability and our hips and how it makes a beautiful V in the vajayjay area, I'm just going to say that maybe vulnerability is an illusion. Maybe vulnerability isn't real from the aspect of how we've been taught that vulnerability exists, or it can be defined even. So maybe vulnerability, when I first think of vulnerability, I think of something that is uncomfortable for me, or awkwardness. And that's how I've either conditioned or trained myself or programmed myself or been programmed to receive the word vulnerability, to define it and have it respond in my physical body and my mind, how it gets triggered, to understand what vulnerability means. But maybe vulnerability means something so much more. Maybe vulnerability means that you get to open up to possibilities. To possibilities that maybe weren't possible or visible or viewable or known, because the perspective and the view and closed narrativeness of, is that a word, of vulnerability. So maybe it's just re-glancing at how we look at our vocabulary. I've been really deep into that, but how we define words, even as we receive them, because they have frequencies and we've identified with them in certain ways. So if you identify with vulnerability as something that isn't to your advantage or to your highest, best self, and for everyone else's highest, best self, maybe just possibly re-look at what vulnerability means for you and have an honest conversation with vulnerability and how you define it and how maybe you role play when you're feeling vulnerable and how you can break certain patterns by redefining what certain words mean to you. Okay? So I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to recognize that vulnerability is a retake of possibilities or opportunities. And here it notes to be vulnerable with your feelings requires profound courage and a decision to break the hard shell of protection that keeps you separated, isolated, and afraid of others. Vulnerability connects you to the most hidden aspects of your soul. In this exploration, you have the possibility of discovering your most intimate, delicate, creative, surprising aspects. This may require you to develop more understanding and compassion for yourself and your life's journey, whilst at the same time moving past the pain of rejection or abuse you may have experienced and which caused you to shut down. Whilst it's important to keep certain people at a distance, there are others who are already in. Here we are talking about boundaries, so how cute is that? Or about to come in to your life. So things are changing all the time, so you can anticipate newness always and change. These people can hold the space for you to step into a soft, honest, gentle exploration of your heart melody. If you refuse and keep suppressing your feelings, you will become exhausted, numb, numb, frustrated, and cold. Well, we don't want that. Anyway, it says it's time to warm your heart and start to be more in touch with what is happening inside your body. What pain are you holding in your lungs, heart, throat, and kidneys in particular? We can examine that fully as we walk through maybe this boundary conversation for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, but you know, even making yourself vulnerable to discuss what your boundaries are opens up, I think, a type of strength and courage that is expressed here in this card and in these loving thoughts by the author, you know, because to make yourself vulnerable, and here I can even note it in like a sexual way too, because the section of the, you know, pubic area is gone, so like sawed away, and that also kind of says to me, look at it from a very objective lens. look at vulnerability, look at situations, look at your boundaries, look at people in your life with an objective lens too. Not one that leans in either direction, but guided in a way that best represents your heart and soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about that, Vero?
Wow. So I think you're right on. And I think it does lead us right into our boundary discussion.
Mm.
Yeah. That was the interesting that the part most interesting to me is that she's sawed in half. It's like the female Messiah figure, sawed in half, but missing her sex.
Her V part.
Yeah.
Her V part, vulnerability part's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So,
What is our V part? What is our vulnerability part? When we saw away, if we walked around without having these parts on our body that define our sex, our gender, what is that? What are we then? What is that part down there in the vaginal area, the V part, the vulnerable part of our body, especially for women, because this is a female figure. It looks aspected to be more feminine, for sure. But why are women's lady bits so vulnerable? Why are our lady bits so vulnerable, making us, our souls, ourselves, our egos that really need to survive here on the planet? It helps us create. Why is our, at least I'll speak for me, why is my VJ so vulnerable, making me so vulnerable? I'll speak only for myself here.
Okay. Why?
Trust. T to the R to the U to the S to the T. Trust.
Yeah.
And that's straight up vulnerable right there.
Yeah. Well, you have to, in order to trust, you have to be vulnerable. And trust is easily given and even more easily destroyed.
Trust is something else. I think, Vero, it is really, really interesting that we're having this conversation. And we talk about trust because this is what I think for me might be the deepest message here. Right. I'm gonna have I am seriously throwing it down. I dig it. I don't trust myself. I haven't honored and trusted the part that has tried to guide me, possibly. I haven't honored the boundaries. I didn't even put them down. I didn't even know at one point in my life that I could say what boundaries were and that they should be respected, even by adults. When you're a child and you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you might have been of the understanding that the adults were the authority figure, and that placed them in a place of power that could be used in a way that might be for their best interest. So misuse of power has quite potentially caused me to have trust issues.
And we learn as children where we're not allowed to have boundaries, right? So often for the benefit of the adults around us, our boundaries are crossed. and like it's something as simple as, when we were children, spanking was a normal
Mm-hmm,
thing.
mm-hmm.
That was a thing. But that's a boundary. Nobody should be able to hit you.
We were physically hit at school even.
Yeah,
like
at
there
school.
was paddles with
With-
holes in it, and they
with a
talked
board.
about it. They
Yes.
made you very fearful. We lived in a very fearful
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Always.
I remember kids crying coming back from the principal's office because they had been beaten with the paddle on their butt, and everybody thought because it's their butt, it's not a big deal. But we are teaching children that, you know, we were teaching children. They don't do this anymore, but we were teaching children that it's okay for an adult to physically hurt you, and that's a boundary you don't get to set.
Yeah.
And that should be a boundary that you were taught to set from the time you were tiny. You know, I mean, I went out of my way because as a parent, there are times when you just want to pull your hair out, right? But I went way out of my way to make sure that no one ever, no one ever touched my baby physically, like physically laid hands on. To the point where one time I put her in timeout, and I had to actually put her in the room and sit by the door because she was like, I'm not going to be in timeout. And I'm crying, and I'm sitting by the door saying, no, you're in timeout. You get to think about it.
We've come a long way, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? As a matter of fact, Vero, I'm going to add to this bit because everybody does the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
Like now we know better, so it's part of evolution that we don't touch our children in that way, so that they can be raised with a better understanding of loving self and honoring self and body as a part of that, even your butt. So, but so I know that everybody did the very best that they could do. So I honor those experiences, even because that's what's transmuted pain and actually given a lot of parents today the ability to not subscribe to those types of parenting techniques and come out without having to hurt our children physically. Yeah. So these are learning experiences. It's called evolution. And it's also about learning our boundaries. You know, like the parents that my parents had a different time as well. So these can be learned behaviors and carried through generations without understanding that it wasn't needed. That this wasn't a great way to rear our kids.
We've only in the past few generations, right, started to not spank the children, right? And although there are some people that still do, that still exists. So
I did spank mine. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I didn't feel great. I stopped very good.
Yeah.
But
my mother used a belt.
Oh yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah.
Or a stick, you know.
Yeah, and
paddle.
It's and I think about it like to take a belt to someone is you're angry. That's only anger and punishment. So it's one of those things. So I'm sorry that you went through that and had to go through learning that, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that that time I put her in timeout. I would have really liked to have spanked her at that point. Yeah. But I didn't. I managed to not do that.
So glad for you, Vero, for having such control and will. Let's give each other a hug.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that all this stuff happens to
absolutely.
us, but there's some really delicious, juicy stuff that comes out.
But there's also like I was going somewhere with that. Oh no, that's okay. Like this with setting our boundaries and learning, learning how to set boundaries and such. I forget where I was going with it, but anyway.
But you were
that's
talking
okay.
about how you wanted to maybe not have the door closed, and you sat there,
Yeah. No, but no, it had to do with a broader perspective on it. Oh, yeah, I remember. So like, there's the generations that grew up like we did, getting spanked with the belt, fearing the paddle at the school principal's office, and all of this. But then you go back a little further. You were talking about your grandparents and such. If you go back and to like the 30s, you'll find whole newspaper articles on how to appropriately beat your wife.
Right.
There's a like that was a thing too. Like that was.
That's why I wear wife beaters.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got my wife beater. Look, I'm a little warm, so I'm gonna take this off.
I know.
And I'm gonna show off my Pussy Army shirt that Christina made for me. It says "Sacred Crystals is my spirit animal." So I get to show that off today.
It looks adorable.
I love it. It's the best. I am rocking it. But yeah, so like there was a time when, it was patriarchy, and women were beat just as much as children.
Yeah.
So that moved with the women's suffrage movement and the women's rights coming into being. There was a time when people were slaves,
Mm-hmm.
and those people were beat. Those people were hit and told that they weren't allowed to have boundaries, right? So like, we've had all these different chapters in humanity, and we are so fortunate right now to be exactly where we are, where that's not okay.
Yeah.
For anyone. It's not okay to beat your children. It's not okay to beat people that work for you. It's not okay to hit anyone, and it's okay to have a personal boundary.
Yeah. And I'll also note that there's a lot of, and then I think it will be good for us to maybe talk about how we can, if you haven't done exercises about creating boundaries and seeing something in a physical thing rather than going from an experience, oh, well, I'll never do that again, or I'll never let that happen again, because then next thing you know, you haven't documented that necessarily, or remembered, or learned the lesson, or, you know what I mean? We're flexible too. We're not rigid, souls, so we've got a little flexibility when it comes to our will and how we use it. But it's kind of good to know how to do it, I think. Yeah. And it was a learning curve for me because I'd never been instructed. I never was told that these were things that I could even create for myself. I know it sounds basic 101, but I'm a baby. I'm a child just growing up, I feel like. So
I think that we all are until we learn, we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, no matter where we are on the age scale, if age is a thing, we're kind of finding out it's not too much. Hello, kitten.
We got a kitty cat.
Yes, welcome.
She's such a big girl.
Such a big girl.
But you know what?
She knows no boundaries.
She has no boundaries. But I'm gonna just call it out because I think like passive aggressive stuff, I'm being mindful about passive aggressive talk or behaviors like so in myself, and just like I got my real huge listening ears on, and I'm trying to discern and have better discernment skills about what feels like my boundaries should either be applied and implemented, or is it something that I should be just more relaxed with. So I'm trying to put that into habit a little bit of how treat myself. And no, the reason why I was kind of inspired to do this too was because in this book by Jamie Sams and David Carson, there is a animal, the armadillo, that you can kind of ask for help, assistance, support if you need help with your boundaries, defining them or identifying them, relating to them. And there's a little way to do it in the book. It tells you that you can get a little piece of paper. And I thought it would maybe be a good exercise for us to do, just to show everybody. I don't know if you feel down with doing that at all, but you get a little sheet of paper, and then you draw a circle. You can use like some kind of circular type lid, whatever, you know. Yeah, thanks, girl. And this is described in the armadillo card here that Jamie Sams and thank you, it's a perfect circle. Here you're supposed to put and express the things that you do want in your life. All of the behaviors, people, situations, dreams, goals, all that kind of stuff gets put into the circle. And then anything on the outside of the circle could be by invitation only, but everything in here is protected by the circle. So call in all the amazing juju that you want in your life that needs protecting and that needs to be respected and honored, you know, identify what those things are. So give it a second, you don't have to, and it can change. That's the beauty too. It's a dynamic thing because as we evolve as star beings on this planet, we also soon realize that maybe what we weren't okay with before is now something that you're realizing you can maybe be a little bit more bendable to, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because there's different categories even for boundaries. Like there might be sexual boundaries, there might be just your friend boundaries, there might be your family boundaries. Maybe they cross over a little bit, but I kind of expanded on this in my mind a little because I thought, oh yeah, there's different categories. Because like healthy sexual boundaries might be a little different for you. So you might have a totally different circle. You could have a different piece of paper that might be on your, your corkboard wall, your vision board that says healthy sexual boundaries in this circle, you know, and have multiple boundaries, sheets of papers with describing the things that you want. So you can do this. I have started one, and you can decorate it. You can make it colorful. You can do this with children. It's very accessible with children, especially when they're young. They can start plugging in and learning about even their sexual boundaries, you know. And it's something physical to look at, plus you've expressed it in word form and given it this thought that you can even be reminded of, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and you can add to it. Maybe scratch out. Maybe, you know, so make it a little bit of a living type boundary circle, you know. So yeah.
I love this idea. I love this idea of putting it together like this, and you can have boundaries with people that are super close to you. In fact, you should have boundaries with people that are super close to you, and those boundaries are set, you know, that you don't cross. And there's a phrase that I hear often that I love, that I've adopted, and that is unconditional love does not equal unconditional tolerance.
I like that.
So yeah, so you can love unconditionally, but you do not tolerate the crossing of the boundary. You can still love unconditionally, but the boundary is the boundary, and that's not to be tolerated. And And yeah, I use that phrase in business as well. With employees, you can have unconditional love for the people that work with you, but you do not have unconditional tolerance for certain behaviors that might be destructive to the overall organization. So you can love them without tolerating.
Let me ask you, because this is something I hadn't thought about until you were talking, and that is maybe the next step that's kind of been missing for me is, what is the impact? What is the result? Is there a consequence? What are the next steps? Is there an action from you if your boundary was crossed? Like, do we know? And I like to have that type of like understanding. What is my reaction? What's going to be my response in the event a certain boundaries crossed? So that I've kind of had that conversation in advance with myself. And possibly, I mentioned this earlier, and you guys weren't a part of it, but I was doing a reading, and it was a mother and daughter, and it was mother and daughter conversation, and boundaries kind of came up in my mind, and I was guided to tell them, sit down together and do this exercise with the circle and the sheet of paper and discuss with each other what your boundaries are, because maybe there's a mother-daughter boundary circle. Maybe there's a relationship circle for each of your friends because it differs or something like that. Maybe it's that. Maybe it needs that. I'm not saying do it for all your friends, but maybe there are certain friends that you know, or certain family members that you know that might trigger you in certain ways, or that might, so you have to set these certain boundaries just to guard yourself, mostly to protect the other person from you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's to protect the other people from you, but in either way, it's fortifying the either person and helping either person. But maybe sitting down and discussing it, and that might be the opportunity to also discuss what the ramifications are if the boundaries crossed or not honored. Because a lot of the times what I did growing up was I either received a silent treatment and wasn't talked to for days, and if I was spoken to, it was very short and curt, and it was real hurtful type. I don't know. Go ask your father. I don't know. Made me feel that way anyway as a kid. You know what I'm saying? I knew that I was being punished by the way I was being treated for something that I had crossed, but I wasn't told the boundary, and you get this, so it was a cycle. But what is the ramification? I don't want to give somebody a cold shoulder. I don't want to be curt and short, or be like snotty, or so what would we say to like another person, like, maybe I'll just need my space from you for a little while, or some healthy room between us, or whatever. I don't know, but it'd be kind of nice to know how you're going to respond up front to that. And maybe we won't know everything, but it kind of be cute.
And we can only control our own responses.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that's why we need to decide what our responses are, so that we can have the healthiest relationship possible with, say, a child. Instead of cold shoulder, deciding beforehand that when the boundary is crossed, when say one of the boundaries is, if you're going to be out past this time, I need to know where you are.
Yeah.
And that's not respected. So, and this is if they were an adult, it'd be a different story. It's none of your business, but they are a child, and they are your responsibility. Basically, your only job is to keep them alive till they get to adulthood. So that's one of the things that you must do, is know where they are after, say, 10 o'clock at night, right? So if you're not in if you're not in the house at 10 o'clock at night, I need to know where you are. That is our line in the sand. That's our boundary.
Yeah.
And when that is not held, rather than being angry and upset and cold shoulder and you're not ever going out again, like deciding how this will be handled. Like, okay, in there it can be something as simple as a consequence, like, okay, I love you, and your phone is mine for the next week.
Yeah.
Like that might be too harsh in these teenage environments, but like setting a boundary, knowing how you're gonna and not being angry with because it's unconditional love, right? So the child doesn't come in. It's unconditional love. I love you. But the consequence, we agreed, or we've set this up ahead of time that you didn't call me. So rather than be angry with you, we're just going to do the consequence, which is the I'm taking your phone for the next however long, and I'm gonna hold on to it. Not mad at you. You can be mad at me if you want, but I'm not mad at you. I love you, and I'm gonna continue to shower you with love, and I'm just this is a boundary that I had set, and you have to know that you can't cross it.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good if people had those conversations. It will actually cause you to go within and really help kind of define for yourself what's really more important, what's going to be the most important thing that sits in this boundary space that you want to honor and have everybody else honor. And then you can scatter on the outside, or I was thinking even make little petals.
Like petals of a flower.
Yeah, and you can put like by invitation, you can add like this person's name. Maybe only by invitation that this person can do like these little things or have access to this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it can be just silly stuff like somebody went in your room and got into your diary or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Things like that, but those are all boundaries you don't want to be crossing. So it's respecting each other's space and kind of knowing in advance what's going to trigger somebody and how they're going to be responding to it. So
triggers are a whole topic, I think.
Yeah. Well, I can bet. I know for me personally that if I'm sticking it in this circle, it's probably something that might trigger me.
Right. Yeah, this is personal boundaries, like things that I am not okay with. And it can be, I think they change for different people, you're right. So like with partners, you have different boundaries than with employees, than with friends. So like there are different lines in the sand, so to speak. So
boundaries change because let me tell you what, before you have baby and after you have baby, that'll change your boundaries real quick. So there's life-changing events that kind of like insurance, when you got to ramp for insurance. If there's a life-changing event that happened where you got married, you're in a new relationship, you got a new business started, you're laid off, you got a new kid, you got another new kid, you have a loss, whatever it is, you're going to maybe be revisiting the boundary situation because it's just the natural way of the flow of things. So
it's probably I would say it's good to look at your boundaries regularly, like almost like once a quarter, this is where I am right now. These are okay. This is where those boundaries were, a few months ago, and this is where they are now. This is how I'm feeling.
Yeah, because sometimes what wasn't getting on your nerves 3 months ago is now like grating like crazy, and you're like, what is going on with that tick you've developed, and you're not trying, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
especially in relationships, as we move forward in relationships, different things trigger.
It's true. So much changes as we age and get older. God bless us. That we require different things at different times in our lives. So I like the thought of revisiting boundaries often because those are, you got your core ones where you want to keep your little sweetheart space all protected. But by also making yourself a little vulnerable, you you might learn to let go of some of the boundaries that were being held on out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
out of the inability to not trust because of whatever reason. So do re-examine them for sure, honey bunny. I like that because it's might free your heart a little bit too. Sometimes it's the perfect thing to do because you do need to let go of some stuff that is might be holding you back from growth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you need to input more stuff because now you've got new people in your life, new events have happened, so it has changed quite potentially.
Yeah, it does. It does change. I think it does change often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, what doesn't change is LUV, baby. LUV for yourself and for others, and serious, serious compassion.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And forgiveness.
Love and compassion.
Yeah. Forgiveness too. Now, what do you think about that, Vero? Did you want to do a reading? Are we good with? I'm going to put LUV in here though.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's add to it. Let's make this our lighten up
Love is in the sacred circle.
podcast boundary. Let us know what you would like to see in our circle, in our lighten up circle boundary, because we want all the good juju positive stuff in our circle.
Absolutely. Yeah, give me the cards real quick. I'll pull something for.
Now, did you want to take from the mystical healing or transcendent journeys?
You know, I feel like sticking with mystical healing.
Do it.
I think let's pull another mystical.
Give her a little
card.
love. Shuffle her up.
Shuffle her up. Let's see what we got in the mystical healing cards. Shuffle them up. Oh yeah. Oh, that one's sticking out. Oh, okay, gotta put the glasses on for this one. This goes so right along with our discussion. This one is called Learn from Karma. Wow. Learn from Karma.
Cute.
Yeah, we've got the sun and the moon cradled together with all the metal elements and basically harm no one. Learn from karma. Planets aligned. Yeah. Yeah. Do no harm. Learn from karma. Because karma is about crossing other people's boundaries. Really, you know, it's You cross it when you cross boundaries. You create your own karma, your own an energy that is sort of a reciprocal energy of the universe, and and learn from that. Learn from the past, the karma of the past.
Great.
You know, all we've been talking about with the changes in the way we've treated children, treated others. And as we become more and more respectful of each other's and each other's boundaries, we've learned from karma of the past, from the energies of the past. We've learned to be more present, to be more in alignment, and to really move forward with gentleness and ease, so that our boundaries are no longer even an issue, because we all respect them so much. That's nice. So yeah, what number is that?
18.
Number 18. Let's see what Miss Ina Sigal has to say. Learn from karma. Your current experience is a culmination of karma you have accrued through several lives. Each of these lives has offered you an opportunity to learn, discover, make choices, create connections, and either evolve or devolve. You are going through a time where you are being asked to compensate for an earlier deed from this or previous lifetimes. You can either complain about it and act like a victim, or embrace the opportunity to use this experience for great inner progress, whilst taking steps toward becoming a more honorable, honest, generous, compassionate, giving person. Like, that's everything we've been talking about, really.
Yeah.
This is a time to go out of your way to do good deeds for others, no matter how inconvenient. Your family members are karmically connected to you, so you might look at what lessons they are teaching you and what healing you can offer them. This card provides an opportunity to live in total honesty and integrity. This will require you to constantly check in with yourself and assess whether your actions are based on what you can gain or what you can give. Constantly check in with yourself. See what's in your circle. How is that allowing you to be the best you? All right. So, and it has a little action step I'm gonna share with you. Every night before you go to sleep and every morning before you getting out of bed, take some time to connect within. Ask some powerful questions. What are the most important lessons I have come here to learn? How would things change if, instead of fighting my challenges, I could truly embrace my karma and understand that it is my opportunity to balance my debts and grow? Take some time to reflect on repetitive situations in your life. This is an opportunity to go deeper. Then ask, if money was not an issue and I was to allow myself to truly evolve, where would I be right now? What would I do? Who would I do it with? Interesting. So, yeah. So, and I look at this and it says, like, reflecting on the lessons we've learned. I see that as a connected consciousness, like the lessons we've all learned together over an expanse we call time. Like all of the lessons that we've been sharing today, you know, of the different ways that boundaries have evolved, like we've learned to have them from past completely disrespecting others. So that's not just something that someone in the past did. That's a collective consciousness that existed and that has evolved over time, and we're now part of that collective conscious that is moving forward and learning to go forward with respect for others and to grow ourselves and continue to become more and more filled with love and compassion and respect. So, yeah, that's where I got from that. Hope
That was solid.
Awesome. All right. All right, everyone. This has been a wonderful episode. Thank you so much, Christina, for being so vulnerable. I really appreciate that. And Miss Kozak.
Kozak, yeah.
Miss Kozak. All right, Miss Kozak. All right. Thank you for stepping in and joining us for Lighten Up. It's only light. I'm Vero, owner of Sacred Crystals, now with shops in Tyrone Square and West Shore Plaza.
Oh, yeah. I'm Christina Kozak, people, and have a beautiful, blessed day.
Yes, blessings. Let's end these videos.